The summer of 1982 is a particularly rainy one in the UK. My girlfriend Gloria and I are hitchhiking and camping and trying to stay dry. We hang out in pubs and bakeries and lots of libraries in little towns. But it's really moody, it's foggy, it's drizzly. There's castles and cottages and cemeteries. And the moors, the foggy, boggy moors. And one day we're hitchhiking and we're heading north towards Scotland. And a little mini Austin stops to pick us up. Two guys, Dave and Dave. Our first gay couple. Literally our first gay couple. Gloria and I are pretty closeted. We're barely out to ourselves, never mind to anybody else. But we're on their radar, and they stuff us into their little mini Austin, and we start talking like we're best friends, and it feels amazing to be seen. These guys are so fun, and within 15 minutes, they've invited us to stay in their council flat in Manchester. So, the Daves. Dave the elder, he's 28. And he's got flouncy red hair, and he's a hairdresser, and he's out. Younger Dave, he's the youngest of all of us at 22. He's a burglar alarm installer. And he's not out. He's not out, especially to his family, especially to his mom. We have a great couple of days, and at some point, Gloria and I are thinking, well, we're getting a little restless, and also we don't want to overstay our welcome, so we're talking about moving on. And the boys say, okay, before you go, let's go camping for 4 days to Wales. Okay. Now, the problem here for young Dave was that meant he was going to miss Sunday dinner with his family, which was a big deal. When he called his mom up to tell her, they got into this huge fight. She was so mad, she was so hurt. She really didn't like his new living arrangement. She didn't like his new roommate. So anyway, Dave said, okay, listen, Mom, I'll be there next Sunday. I promise. Canadian friends, we're going camping. I'll see you next week. So the next day, we pack up that mini Austin, and we drive 4 hours to Wales, to the coast. And we get to the campground. It's September. The kids are back in school. The holidays are over. We have the campground to ourselves. And the campground is just a field, a grassy field set against the dunes. And behind the dunes, the ocean, the constant roar of the ocean. And even though we have the entire campground to ourselves, we put our tents 3 feet apart. We put a tarp over the front entrances, so we have a little vestibule that protects us from the drizzle. And a long, low cement building, the amenities block, where the toilets and the sinks are, it's about 300 yards away. So we're eating dinner that night, beans on toast, we ate that most nights. And the light goes on in the toilet block. The toilet flushes. The light goes off. And we're like, we really are the only ones here. And young Dave, the burglar alarm installer, there's a new technology, motion sensors. And so he's like, maybe it's a motion sensor, and it's a little animal setting it off. So the next day, while we're brushing our teeth, the next morning, we're looking for these motion sensors in this cement block, toilet block area. And of course, there are none. Anyway, the next day we go wandering around on the coast, and there's more castles and cottages and cemeteries, and it's easy to imagine that this place is haunted. And so that night, when we're having our dinner again, and the light goes on, and the toilet flushes, and then the light goes off again, we're like, okay, so it's haunted. But the unfinished business that the ghost has is in the toilet block. So we're fine. The next day, it's our third day, we get in the car and we drive a little further, and we find an old tin mine on a side of a hill, and at the bottom of the tin mine is a town, an abandoned town, a ghost town. So we walk down there, and we start like imagining the lives of the people who used to live here. And I had a bit of a romantic idea of isolated places. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a lighthouse keeper or a cemetery caretaker, quiet, and also housing provided in these jobs. But as we four queers are wandering around this town, the romance is wearing off a little, because I'm thinking it would be really isolating and claustrophobic to live as a lesbian in a town with 10 houses and a pub. Back at the campground that night, we're sitting by our campfire and we're eating dinner. The toilet block does its thing. But also tonight, a raven flies across the field and lands about 30 yards away. And it stares at us for about a minute and then flies off, and we're a little startled, but okay. The next day is our last day, and it's really bright, like unusually bright day. So we spend it on the beach. We walk down the beach that way and back that way. And by late afternoon, the temperature's changing, the wind is changing, it's getting colder. Big, thick fog is rolling in. So we head back to the campsite, make a little fire, and by the time we're sitting down to dinner, we are really completely enveloped in fog. We can't even see the toilet block. And through the fog comes the raven. And this time it lands a lot closer, like startlingly close. And it stares at us for a lot longer, disturbingly longer. And then it flies away, and now we really are scared. We're really scared. It's like we can't see anything else. We're just in the fog. It's just the four of us. So we decide nobody's going anywhere. We are sticking together. Nobody leaves anybody's eyesight. And so we don't even wash our dishes. We don't even brush our teeth. We go to bed. In the middle of the night, I get up to pee like I always do, and young Dave is outside the tent. He's circling the tent, and he's so agitated. Somebody's calling my name. Somebody's calling my name. I heard somebody crying. I'm so scared. What's happening? I grab a picnic blanket and wrap it around him and me, and we sit in our little vestibule area, watching the fog and listening to the ocean. The next day, we get up, and young Dave is super edgy, really impatient to get going. He wants to go home. So we pack up the car, we drive back, and everything's okay until we get to the Manchester city limits, and then he starts freaking out in the front seat. Something's happened. I know it has. Something's happened. We get home. The answering machine light is blinking. Dave, call home. He calls home, and he learns that his mom had died the previous night, in the middle of the night, of a blood clot to the heart. And we're all in shock. Dave is really in shock. He's oscillating between hysteria, like he's wailing, he's crying, he's throwing himself on the couch, and then he turns to us and he says, "Oh, but don't go. We're having such a good time." And he starts wailing again. So Gloria and I stay for a few more days, but the boys are gone most of the time and preparing for the funeral, and so of course it's time to go. So the boys take the afternoon to drive us through the Yorkshire Dales to Hull. We're going to get on the North Sea ferry and go to Rotterdam. So we say our goodbyes. It's quite emotional. We're hugging and crying and promising to stay in touch. We get on the ferry. It's huge. There's like 1,000 passengers. And the North Sea, it's an overnight ferry. It's always rough. But it was really rough that night. And we put our sleeping bags down on the lounge floor, but I can't lay there. I can't sleep. I feel so sick from all the pitching and the rocking of the boat. So I grab my poncho and I go up on deck. And I can't distinguish between the sea and the sky. Everything's just white and wet. I can see the railing, and so I make my way to the railing, and I'm just holding on as the ship is just like slashing through the water, and I'm haunted by what happened with Dave, and I feel so tiny, and I'm really very sure that I know almost nothing. Thank you.